Welcome to the Destiny Church Tees Valley podcast. As you listen, it is our prayer that you are transformed by audacious faith, inspiring hope, and extravagant love.
I'm so excited to be here with you all this morning. There really is no place like home. If it's your first time here, then I am so excited that you're here, and a massive warm welcome. I may be slightly biased, but I think these are some of the best people that you will ever meet. So much so that I really can't stay away for that long. I was back home just a couple of weeks ago for the conference that we hosted here called the Global Leadership Summit. So I came up back home just to help serve at this conference. It finished Saturday and I had to be back in Gloucester for Sunday. But I was like, I'm a planner. I can do this. So I had my trains sorted. I had my connections sorted. Eventually, when I get to my last station, I live on top of a hill, and I'm not really that into walking, although I may deceive you this morning with the way I walk around the stage. So I got a lift from the station back up. I was sorted. I was like, what could possibly go wrong? Top tip, don't ask that question, because sometimes God just shows you. So I got on my first train. It was all going okay until we hit Leeds. Now, unbeknown to me, there was actually a football game between Leeds and Birmingham. I was going to say Billingham and Birmingham. Did Billingham even have a football team? Oh, Adam's like, yeah, sorry for offending you. So once we got there, the amount of people, I think the whole population of the UK decided to get on this train. I'm sure you were probably there as well. There were so many people. There was nowhere even in the aisles to stand. Like, people started sitting on top of the table that I was at. Like, there was legs, arms everywhere. I was like, could this get any worse? Then the train started getting delayed and delayed and delayed again and again and again. I was thinking, could this get any worse? I'm watching my little, you've got the app, because do people still print out tickets? I don't know. Anyway, I have an app on my phone and I'm refreshing it, watching my connections. The time is getting less and less. I eventually get to Birmingham, not Billingham. I get to Birmingham and I run to my next connection. The second I get there, I just watch the train pull away. I thought, could this get any worse? So then I go and I have a little look for any other train that I can get on, and I realize that there's not another train leaving to the next station that I need to be at. So I thought, it's okay, I can just get one to around the same area. So I start Googling and I'm having a look. I look at every single station between Birmingham and Malvern where I live, and there is not a single train leaving. I was like, could this get any worse? You think I'd have learned to not ask this question. So anyway, I finally phoned my friend who was going to pick me up and said, just to let you know, I'm not actually going to be able to get to Malvern, so you don't need to come pick me up. And they said, Nadine, we will come and pick you up from Birmingham, which is about an hour. I was like, you are incredible. I tell you what, I'll run back into the station and I'll get you loads of food just to say thank you. So I run back into the station. I know I've got like an hour to kill. As I go, all the shops have obviously shut by now. So I'm sat there thinking, like, I've got no food for them. I've just promised them, like, this could not go worse. Eventually, waiting, I get the phone call that said, Nadine, we're in Birmingham. Still want to say Billingham. We're in Birmingham. And they said, we're not quite sure where we are. We're in a car park somewhere. But I tell you what, because we are Generation Z, we shared our location on WhatsApp. So I could see where they are. They could see where I was. And we started walking to find each other. We didn't think this through that much because we were both walking. We were just going in circles. I was like, could this get any worse? I eventually bumped into them. I was like, this is great. Like, all my problems are over. And they said, Nadine, just one thing. The reason why we didn't quite make it all the way to the station is, well, the car's broken down. I was like, oh, like, this is just typical. Could this get any worse? So we eventually said, right, let's just go to the car. It's about midnight at this point, and Birmingham have been in a football match. It is heaving. So I was like, we're fumbling around trying to find this car park because they forgot where they parked. We eventually get to the car park and we realized it has been locked. The car park has shutters down. I'm looking in just thinking, could this get, and my friend puts her hand across my mouth and says, Nadine, shh, don't say it. Don't say it, because every time you say it, it just gets worse. So we start looking on the form outside, the information, trying to see if we can find a number. We're phoning every friend that we have that lives in Birmingham. No one answers. No one's answers. Eventually we get one person. They were like, Nadine, if you're really stuck, maybe we'll come. But, if there's any other option, could you take that? I'm thinking, it's now 1 a.m. in the centre of Birmingham. I am pretty stuck. But anyway, we kept having a look. I'm reading the information, and I see that it says, if any cars are left overnight, they will either be sold back to their owner or part exchanged of. Now, of course, sheer panic hits me, but I, in my executive judgment that I had with myself, decided I will not tell the car driver this. I thought we will deal with this when we get to it. Eventually, I managed to find a number for the car park. We ring them. Long story short, someone came and opened it. We prayed like mad, and the car just magically worked. And we got back for about 3 a.m. that night. It did not go to plan. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you thought, that was not my plan. Whether it was a journey, whether it was a child, whether it was a season of your life, you thought, I did not plan that. Turn to someone next to you and say, I did not plan that. You see, just because you didn't plan it doesn't mean that God didn't plan it. Just because it wasn't a part of what you thought was going to happen doesn't mean that God didn't already know and prepare that for it to happen. There's a story in the Bible, an account of a man that we learn about his life, and really everything seemed to just not go to plan. He was from a dysfunctional family. This family was messed up. I don't even think Jeremy Kyle could fix the issues this family had going on. And as he lived, it was just problem after problem after problem. This was just beyond what you could have even planned or imagined. It just seemed to not go right. But although to our eye it didn't seem to go right, in the end he fulfilled, and what God did through him was miraculous. His name is Joseph. And we're going to read a little bit about Joseph this morning from Genesis chapter 37, starting at verse 3. And it will be on the screen behind me if you'd like to follow. It says, Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he'd been born to him in his old age. And he made an ornate robe for him. That's the technical colour dream coat for all of you that have seen the film. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph had a dream. And when he told this to his brothers, they all hated him all the more. He said to them, Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of corn out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered round mine and bowed down to it. His brothers said to him, Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Skipping down to verse 12, it says, Now his brothers had gone to graze their father's flocks near Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, As you know, your brothers are grazing the flocks near Shechem. Come, I'm going to send you to them. Very well, he replied. So he said to him, Go and see if all is well with your brothers and with the flocks, and bring word back to me. Then he sent him off from the valley of Hebron. In verse 19, it says, The brothers saw Joseph and said, Here comes that dreamer. Turn to somebody near you and say, Here comes that dreamer. I want to talk to you this morning from the title, Here Comes That Dreamer. You see, when the brothers saw Joseph, that was the first thing that came to their mind. But I wonder what it is for you when you walk into the room. When people see you, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Are they thinking this is the person where the atmosphere drops and everything's just a bit, awkward now? Or do you bring the atmosphere up? Do you bring peace or do you bring chaos? What is it that you bring into the room? My prayer is that after today, we're going to start thinking and have a change of perspective so that when we go back into our workplaces, when we go back home with our families, people will start to say, here comes that dreamer when they see you. Because you see, God has got a dream and a plan for every single one of your lives. He's got a plan and a dream that is bigger and better than anything that you could ask for, anything that you could think of, anything that you could imagine. It's better than your ambition. It's better than your dream. He's got something that is incredible. You see, but we all have dreams. And a lot of our dreams are good dreams. You see, we've got dreams for family. We're like, I want to get married. Maybe I want to have kids. That might be a dream that you have. Maybe you're thinking, I've also got a dream for a job or a promotion. You know, there's this job which I've been training for so long, and I really just, when I get that, my dream job, when I get that, I'm going to be so happy. These are good dreams. We're thinking, you know what? I've got this dream house. Like, I really want to go on to Grand Designs and have this dream house. Maybe you're thinking, I've just got a dream to travel the world. Like, that's my dream. I just really want to go around. Or, you know what, I've got a skill that it is that I want to learn. What is it that your dreams are? Maybe you've got dreams of running something in church, and you've just got these dreams that you kind of carry around with you everywhere you go, which are good dreams. They're not bad things. They're good, but the issue is, this is how a lot of our souls look like. We've kind of come into church this morning like, God, I'm here, but I'm carrying all of these dreams that I've got for myself. And the issue is that we're holding on to things that God has never asked us to hold on to. So when it comes to small things like worship Him, we're kind of like, God, hallelujah, Jesus, I'm here. And when it comes to sort of like, oh, will you turn with me in the Bible? We're like fumbling around. We're trying to balance what we've got so that we can't quite accept what God's got for us. You see, if someone tries to pass me something now, I haven't got the hand to take what God's trying to release from His hand. You see, I'm so full of what I've got that I can't quite take what God's got for me. And the issue is that because we're balancing, stuff starts to fall. And we spend our life chasing these small dreams with it. Oh, I know I miss church again, but you know what? Once I get this job, and once I get this financially stable, then I'll tithe. And oh, connect group again, but look, I've got the job now. And oh no, and then we start focusing, and we find ourselves starting to bow down to things that are meaningless, things that we were never called to aim for. And you see, God is saying, if you could just release what is in your hand so that you can pick up what is in His hand, you're going to have such a more fulfilled life. You see, when you put down what's in your hand, you've got so used to carrying it, it's become so comfortable that it's going to take you a while to stretch it out. It's going to feel a little bit uneasy for a while. It's going to take you a while to start using your muscles again. But you see, God has got a dream for you that is bigger and better. God has got a dream that's going to require you to focus just on this dream. He's got a dream that's going to require you to pick it up and to decide for yourself. He's got a dream that is so big it's not going to be able to fit into every door. I mean, this dream isn't going to fit through the door of a fence. This dream isn't going to fit into that circle of friends that are always pulling this off me. This dream isn't going to fit into the room of gossip. This dream starts to direct your life. You see, the issue is a lot of us want to pick up our dream and get God to bless it. God, this is what I really want, so if you just bless this, that would be incredible. But actually, Joseph never asked for a dream. Joseph never said, this is my dream, God, will you just bless it? But Joseph had a relationship with God, and God knew him so well, and he knew God so well that God was able just to give him the dream when the time was right. See, point number one, I want to say you need to seek. You need to seek. The only way you're going to get the dream is to seek God. You see, because the more you know God, the more you know the giver of the dream. Unless you know the giver of the dream, you're not going to be able to receive the dream. Unless you know the one who can fulfill the dream and the one who can sustain you during the dream, you're never going to be able to receive it. To receive the dream, you need to know Jesus. Because as you seek Jesus, the dream will follow you. As you run after Jesus. See, Joseph didn't keep running after the dream. He just obeyed and where he was at. And the dream followed him. See, the other stage about seeking is it's a private stage. It's a stage where it says in the Bible about going into your room and closing the door. It's a stage it's about you and Jesus. It's a stage that needs protecting, because Joseph, he kind of spoke too much. Joseph had this dream and then he decided to tell his brothers. His brothers already hated him, and then he decided to say, by the way, God's just told me that you're all gonna bow down to me. He had his dream, and he's just opening it up to everyone. Would you like to look in? Would you like to see my dream? He was oversharing. He was overposting. His Instagram story would have been one of those that's tiny dots at the top, because he was just telling everyone everything. He was oversharing. But what I love about Joseph's immaturity is that although he overshared, and although we might think that's not wise, and although he might have misjudged who we could trust with it, God still could use it to get him to the dream. God could still lead him to where he was supposed to be. Because the dream isn't about what you do. The dream isn't about how well you behave. The dream isn't about everything that you can do right. The dream is about you having a heart that is full of Jesus, and just saying, Jesus, wherever I am, I will follow you. Jesus, wherever I am, I will listen to you. Because as you follow Jesus, Jesus can work with it. You see, the brothers hated Joseph because he had this dream. Joseph was different. There was something about him. I don't really think you can walk around with this all the time and kind of look normal. You can't really hide it. If you see me, you're going to see my dream. I can try and put it behind me, but eventually it's going to start showing its face, because when you've got a dream, it changes everything about you. When you've got a dream, it's going to change how you walk into that room. When you've got a dream, it's going to change how you talk. It's going to change your values. It's going to change where you go, your direction of your life. And Joseph was different. You see, often in life we try and downplay our differences to fit in. We're so keen to be liked, and we're so keen to fit in that we even place the dream down, and we try and hide it, and we don't want to show people. But you see, people will accept what is the same, but later in life they come to respect what is different. God is calling you to be different. You see, Joseph had a dream which made him different. Jesus was crucified because he was different. Noah was seen as a lunatic for building an ark when there was no flood. He was different. But at the same time, Joseph comes to save a nation because he wasn't afraid of being different. Jesus saves the world. He died on a cross. He defeats death, and he saves all of our lives because he wasn't afraid of being different. And Noah, he saves his family, the only family that are left, because he wasn't scared of being different. See, Joseph knew he was different. His father gave him a coat because he was the favorite son. And what I love about him is that he wore that coat. He was like, I'm not ashamed of it. You want to see my coat? I'll give you a twirl in my coat. I'm different, and I'm embracing it. I'm going to walk the walk, and I will talk the talk. He loved it. I want to ask you this morning, will you wear your coat? Will you walk into that workplace and allow the presence of God just to change the room? Will you go back home to your family and show the love of God even though things are tense? Will you wear your coat? Will you be different? You see, if God knows that he's going to be able to get the dream through you, then he will always make sure that he gets the dream to you. Don't miss out on the dream because you're so scared of being different. So point number 1 is to seek Jesus. We need to seek God. Point number 2, we need to stand. You see, being different isn't easy. Having a dream isn't easy. Joseph's life was not easy. And even when you've seeked God and you've got the dream, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be easy. There's going to be some tough times. You see, God tests Joseph. He goes through 10 tests. See, Joseph kind of starts off and his brothers want to kill him and they throw him into this pit, and then thankfully he's got like a brother called Reuben that's like, actually, let's get a bit of silver out of him. And so he goes from a pit, they sell him to the Ishmaelites, they sell him in Egypt to Potiphar, who's the king Pharaoh, so one of his official men. So he goes from a pit to getting sold to now being a slave in the palace. And then Potiphar's wife kind of tries it on with Joseph a little bit. She's like, she likes what she sees, let's just put it that way. And she tries to entice Joseph. Joseph gets scared. He kind of runs away, and Potiphar's got his coat. And she uses this as evidence to falsely accuse Joseph of rape. So that Joseph's gone from a pit to being sold, to being a slave, to now being in prison. Like, this was not the plan. But the crazy thing about Joseph's life is that although things didn't seem to go to plan, it's in every season that he was at, it always says that the Lord was with Joseph. He had the presence of God no matter where he was, and he had the purpose of God, because wherever he was at, the Lord promoted him. He didn't promote himself, but God had his favor and his hand upon him. And even when he was in prison, he was made the head. It doesn't matter where he was promoted. See, God will only trust what he tests. The pit kind of tests his pride. The prison kind of tested his power. He goes through 10 tests. And while Joseph's in the prison, he meets 2 guys. One's a baker and one's a cupbearer. And I find this quite fascinating because the baker is used to getting stuff and making something new out of it. And the cupbearer is used to having a cup of wine for the king, drinking it to check it's safe, then just holding on to it. You've got one that's used to making something new and one that's just used to holding on to what he's been given. There's 2 types of dreams. And Joseph, they come with their dreams for Joseph, and Joseph's like, I'll interpret them. You see, Joseph's gone from oversharing to now kind of protecting his dream and going, just tell me yours for a minute. Like, I know I've got mine, but whereas before I showed everyone and look where I ended up, I've kind of learned just to protect it, and why don't you tell me yours? See, God will give you opportunities to use your gift in private, when no one's around, when no one's looking. See, he interpreted the dreams for these 2 people. I mean, Joseph had the gift of interpretation, but he could have been like, yeah, you're not really that important. You're in prison. Actually, I'll just wait till I can interpret dreams for the king. But actually, Joseph was like, I'm going to interpret and I'm going to use the gifts that I was given no matter if anyone is around. See, Joseph's coat was used when he was put into the pit as evidence of his death that the brother showed to his father. Potiphar's wife used Joseph's coat to falsely accuse him of rape. I don't know about you, but if I was Joseph, I would just not wear a coat again. But what is it that Joseph kept getting tripped up by his coat? But what is that coat in your life? What is it that you keep getting tripped up with again and again? Because you see, with God, you don't really fail a test. You just keep resitting and resitting and resitting until you eventually get through it. What's your core? What is it that you keep getting tripped up on again and again? You see, the tests are to check our character. They're to test our character. And many people will never fulfill their dream because their character is just not strong enough to support it. You see, God is wanting to see if when you're in the prison, can you turn that into your palace? Because the palace wasn't about where Joseph was put. The palace was about what God had put in Joseph. And therefore, it didn't matter whether Joseph was in the pit, whether he was in the prison. What was in him was Jesus. He had the living God inside of him. And therefore, wherever he was, he could turn his prison into a palace. It's not about where you are, it's about what's in you. Can you hold on to your dream despite your situation? Can you hold on to it wherever you are? You see, the prison and the palace are actually quite similar. They both have walls that protect it and guard it. They both have guards. They both have limitations of what you can do while you're in there, even if the limitations are different. They're actually quite similar. And it's like God was saying, if you can just learn to live in the prison, then you're going to excel in the palace. Actually, what you think is a setback right now, I'm training you and I'm setting you up for where I've got you to be. And although you don't know it at the moment, this is something that you need to learn. And there's a purpose behind this pain. There's a purpose behind what you're going through. But if we can never see the palace, we'll never reach the palace. If all we can see is the prison and the pit, we'll never see it. We'll never get to the palace. Can you hold on to the dream that God has given you, even when stuff doesn't pan out? See, some of us have been given dreams years and years ago, but because they haven't kind of happened yet, we're just slowly losing grip of them. And I really feel prompted that God is saying, I want you to pick up that dream again, and I want you to carry what I told you to carry. And even though right now you're thinking, there's no way that this is going to happen, like if you just saw my finances, I'm getting old, or I'm too young, or if you just saw where I didn't get that job I wanted, and we look at what God hasn't done, but God's just saying, I'm training you. If you just hold on to it, I'll take you to where you're supposed to be. You see, Joseph interpreted the dream for the cupbearer and the baker. And he taught, when the baker died, I was going to put that a bit nicer, then the cupbearer went back to the palace to work for the king. And Joseph said, remember me when you go back. And in the Bible it says that the cupbearer forgot Joseph. You see, this is important because Joseph's promotion wasn't because of what he did, and it wasn't because of the people around him. Joseph's promotion was because of God. It wasn't because this cupbearer remembered him, was given a favor back. Actually, God was saying, I don't want you to think this is because of the cupbearer. I want you to know that this is my time, and when I'm ready to promote you, I will. Because then Pharaoh, the king, gets a dream. And no one around can interpret it. Everyone's confused. And then the cupbearer remembers. And says, I got this friend actually that was in prison and he could interpret dreams. And Joseph gets promoted to become one of the king's official men. You see, God waited 2 years before he promoted Joseph in the prison. He could have given Pharaoh the dream straight away. Like Joseph could have gone to prison next morning, bish, bash, bosh, Bob's your uncle, he's out. But God says, no, I'm going to wait 2 years before I give Pharaoh this dream. Because Joseph had to learn to serve those that would later be serving him. He had to learn to serve and interpret the dream for the cupbearer that later would be serving him. He had to learn to submit himself before he got the power. Point number 3 is to submit. Point number 1, seek. Point number 2, stand. Point number 3, submit. You see, Joseph's dream looked very different to how he imagined it. When Joseph had this dream of his brothers bowing down, and when that actually happened, they have 2 vastly different images. And some of you this morning will be standing in the middle of your dream, but you just don't recognize it, and you're missing out on the miracle that God has for you. You see, God only showed Joseph a part of the dream. Out of this whole dream, Joseph just got the position. He just got the power of, I'm going to be important and everyone's going to bow down to me. God revealed the bit of the dream that was going to motivate Joseph. God revealed the part that he knew would kind of spark Joseph's interest so that he would follow it. You see, often we think we struggle with discipline. but actually we just struggle with having a dream. Because when you've got a dream, it changes everything about the way that you live. And actually, you're willing to make sacrifices that you wouldn't have been willing to do before. But actually, when the dream comes to happen, Joseph's got his power, but then he's faced with his past. The brothers come to see Joseph for food. You see, Joseph had this dream that he interpreted for the king, which was to say there's going to be a famine for 7 years. And Joseph's job was to stock up the food before it happened, so that when the famine happened, he could supply and make sure everyone was okay. So because there was no food, Joseph's brothers, who were the reason why Joseph ended up in the pit, they kind of come looking for some food, unaware that Joseph is now the person in charge. You see, Joseph was faced with his past. But Joseph didn't allow his past to influence or affect his present. See, I want to ask you, have people from your past still got the influence of the decisions that you're making today? Have the people of the past still affecting your emotions today? Have you still got bitterness and grudges towards the people from the past? You see, Joseph, if he kept bitterness towards the people in the palace, when he went to prison, he would have never ended up back in the palace where God had assigned him. And so Joseph has this position, but when the dream comes to happen, he realizes that his position wasn't about his status, but about his service. You see, this power wasn't for him to walk around and wear. This power was for him to turn around and to fill it with the food for his brothers and to serve. His position wasn't about him. His position was about his service. Your dream will never be about you. Your dream will be about bringing glory to God. Your dream will never be selfish. It'll be one filled with sacrifice. What is your dream? You see, Joseph, when the brothers came, he could have killed them. But if Joseph had killed the brothers, he would have killed his dream. I really feel urged this morning just to tell some of you, you need to let go of the past. You need to let go of what has been done to you. You need to let go of what people have done to you. You need to let it go because it's affecting your present and it's preventing you from entering into your dream. Joseph's dream was not about his brothers serving him. It was about him serving his brothers. What if the greatest privilege and the greatest dream over your life is not about what is going to happen to you, but what you are going to do for someone else? What about if the dream is absolutely nothing to do with you, but what God wants to do through you? You see, this morning, I don't want us just to listen to this sermon and then to go away being like, yeah, cool, that was great, let's move on. I really want us to think about the dream. Because everything that happens in our life, everything that is supernatural, everything that is a miracle is first has a natural step. You see, Joseph had the supernatural interpretation of gifts, but first he had to just simply say, tell me a dream. You see, Peter miraculously walked on water, but first he had to just naturally take a step. You see, Moses split the Red Sea. He split the sea so that they could walk through it. But first, he just simply had to hold out his rod and lift his arm above the sea. There's always something natural that you have to do, a step of faith, a step of obedience that will happen before the supernatural happens. And this morning, I want to ask you the question of what is the step that you're going to take today? What is the step that God has got for you today? I mean, it depends what stage you're on. If you're thinking, yeah, I need to seek. Maybe your step is to go to an alpha course and learn more about who Jesus is. Maybe your step is, I just need to be more disciplined and just start reading my Bible or praying or journaling so I don't forget what God's saying to me. Maybe you're just saying, you know what, I need to just let go of my own dreams and pick up what God's got for me. maybe you're thinking, actually, I know the dream that God's got for me, but I just feel like over the years I've kind of been hit down quite a lot, and I'm really struggling to hold on to this dream still. Maybe your marriage is being tested, your kids are testing you. Maybe there's family, maybe it's at work. And maybe you're like, actually, I'm just going to simply, naturally take that step of, I'm going to compliment my wife. I'm going to start speaking life back into my job. I'm going to just start being polite and take food in for my colleagues just to cheer them up. I'm going to do something small and simple that seems so easy, but actually it's your step. Because when we step, then God steps. Maybe you're thinking, actually, I'm on the submit stage. I know my dream, and I know I'm kind of being battled with it, but actually, I think I'm seeing it come to be fulfilled now. And maybe you're just thinking, this is not what I thought it was going to look like, and your step is, I'm just going to stop complaining. Maybe your step is, actually, there's a problem, but I'm going to be the answer. Joseph's solution came through a famine. Joseph was the provision of the problem. Joseph could have looked at the famine and been like, this is a nightmare, but actually he decided, this is a nightmare, God used me to fix it. And maybe that problem that you're complaining about, God is wanting to use you to be the solution. What is it that you are going to do? What is your step? What is your personal step? I'd love you this week in your Connect groups to say your step. I'd love you to write it on your connection cards. What is your step? Because unless we're specific, it's not going to happen. Unless we decide now, we're going to forget about it tomorrow. What is your step? And also, what is the step that we're going to do as a church? How are we together going to contribute towards the dream? How are we together going to reach more people? What are you together going to do as a Connect group? What are you together going to do as a ministry? What are you going to do together as a friendship group? What are you going to do together in order to contribute to the dream of the church? I want you to decide a step for yourself, and also, this is what we're going to do together. Why don't you pray with me? God, we just thank you for who you are. God, we thank you that you are a good God, and that you've got a dream for every single one of our lives. And God, we just ask that you will show yourself to us in a whole new way this week, God. That you will help us to fall more in love with you, and as we follow you, the dreams will follow us. So we just give you this week, and we pray that you'll help us to know our step.
If you would like to know more, please visit us at www.thedestinychurch.co.uk.